We all know Africa for sweeping savannas and epic migrations. But this East African nation hides impossible scenes at every turn. And Ol Doinyo Lengai erupts strange silvery lava that cools into white rock, a volcanic oddity found nowhere else. In this video, I'll show you Kenya's most incredible places, from the last northern white rhinos at Ol Pejeta to flamingo pink lakes and hidden marine ruins near Watamu. Watamu Marine National Park in Kenya shelters one of the planet's most compact and complete coast-to-coral ecosystems, where mangroves, seagrass meadows, and coral gardens meet within meters of each other. Do you know, Watamu is one of the few places on Earth where hawksbill and green turtles nest on the same beaches that feed coral reef systems, teeming with rare reef fish. The park's shallow lagoons are cradles for juvenile fish that will later color reefs across the Indian Ocean. Coral bommies here host an astonishing diversity: parrotfish that sandblast old coral into new sand, elegant lionbee species, and the elusive Napoleon racé among them. At certain tides, the mangrove roots exhale clouds of tiny crabs and shrimps, which in turn draw flocks of shorebirds and hungry reef predators. Beneath the surface, seagrass meadows act like underwater nurseries and carbon stores, making Watamu not just beautiful, but vital in the fight against climate change. Divers and snorkelers speak of underwater tunnels of coral, where sunlight fractures into ribbons and frogs and eels peek from crevices. Whale sharks and manta rays are seasonal visitors, gliding past reefs that are paradoxically both fragile and fiercely resilient. Local fishing communities have coexisted with this park for generations, passing down knowledge of tides, spawning seasons, and sacred groves. Conservationists now work beside elders to map breeding sites and patrol reefs, turning traditional practice into scientific stewardship. Walk a shoreline at night, and you may encounter tracks of nesting turtles or pockets of bioluminescent plankton that flare when disturbed. The nearby Arabuko-Sokoke forest funnels fresh water and nutrients into the marine system, a rare land-to-sea partnership that magnifies life below the waves. Watamu is a living classroom where tiny organisms ripple upward to sustain enormous biodiversity and the human stories tied to it. Stay with us, and we'll reveal the hidden threats and surprising recovery stories shaping this Kenyan treasure. We will meet scientists who tag turtles with names instead of numbers, fishermen who rescue stranded dolphins, and youth groups restoring crushed coral gardens. We'll trace how tourism, once unregulated, has been reshaped by community-led rules that reward protection over plunder. You'll hear the strange story of a coral species that recovered after a bleaching event because of a cooling current that slipped in from the open sea. And you'll discover how a tiny reef snail can tell us more about ocean health than any satellite. By the end of this segment, you'll understand why Watamu Marine National Park is not simply a postcard, but a living, breathing experiment in survival. Its future will depend on choices made on the shoreline, in city councils, and in the deep blue where life teeters and tenaciously clings. The Chalbi Desert in northern Kenya holds one of the planet's rarest landscapes, a white salt-encrusted basin that was once a prehistoric lake. Do you know the Chalbi still conceals submerged dunes and fossilized shorelines that reveal a climate flip so dramatic it reshaped the entire ecosystem? Travelers expect sand and dunes, yet Chalbi offers a checkerboard of hard-packed salt crusts, gravel plains, and isolated shrubs that survive on fog and sparse rains. Nomadic communities like the Gabra and Rendille read this land the way sailors read stars, tracking seasonal wells and hidden pasture. Mirages are common here, but so are secrets. Ancient pottery shards and animal bones surface after rare storms, telling stories of vanished lakes and migration routes. Scientists come to map paleolakes under the crust, hoping to understand how shifting climates turned a watery basin into an empty, echoing plain. At night, temperatures drop sharply, and the sky becomes a dome of unfamiliar constellations reflected in the salt. This extreme contrast shapes life in unexpected ways. Adaptations are subtle. Camouflaged insects, water-conserving shrubs, and grazing herds that move in strict rhythms to avoid the harshest heat. Despite its seeming desolation, Chalbi supports seasonal wetlands in depressions that burst to life after rains, attracting migratory birds and predators alike. Those brief green months link the desert to Mount Marsabit and Lake Turkana, forming a fragile network of habitats across northern Kenya. Climate change and expanding roads now press on this balance, bringing both opportunity and new threats to traditional livelihoods and rare species. Local guardians combine indigenous knowledge with modern science, staging community hunts for solutions that reconcile grazing, conservation, and water security. Walking its cracked surface, you can feel the silence of centuries and the echo of ancient floods, a history written in salt and stone. To understand Chalbi is to follow those echoes to neighboring oases, to the turbid shores of Lake Turkana, and into the long human story woven across northern Kenya. What appears as an empty canvas is instead a living archive of climate, culture, and survival that few visitors ever truly see. Stay with us, and we'll peel back those layers, revealing how Chalbi's harsh beauty connects to Kenya's wider natural tapestry. Along forgotten trade routes, stories of caravans and salt bars hint at an economic past that bridged distant peoples across this white plain. In the next segment, we'll trace those paths and uncover the living threads that tie Chalbi to Kenya's richest, most surprising landscapes. Nairobi National Park is one of the only national parks on Earth that sits directly adjacent to a major capital and shelters free-roaming black rhinos beneath the silhouette of the city skyline. Do you know Nairobi National Park contains a functioning wildlife orphanage and the David Sheldrick Elephant Orphanage, where rescued calves are rehabilitated before release? The park's grasslands and acacia-dotted plains host lions, leopards, cheetahs, and sprawling herds of zebra and wildebeest that survive less than 20 minutes from glass skyscrapers. Visitors rarely imagine that within this compact reserve, migratory pathways still thread through to the Athi Kapiti Plains and beyond, toward Amboseli's elephant country. A walk along the riverine forests reveals over 400 bird species, including ostriches and secretive raptors, making this patch of urban wilderness a global hotspot for birdwatchers. The Nairobi National Park Game Reserve also functions as a living classroom, where anti-poaching units and community conservancies perfect techniques later used across Kenya. By day, you can spot endangered black rhino browsing thorn scrub, while the city hums beyond the horizon. And by night, the park becomes an orchestra of hyena calls and lion roars. Rangers patrol ancient migration corridors here, protecting links that allow seasonal herds to move toward richer grazing in the Rift Valley and Amboseli regions. Nairobi National Park's shallow lakes and dambos draw flamingos and pelicans in surprising numbers after rains, transforming scrubland into ephemeral wetlands. Researchers tag and monitor these arrivals, turning this unexpected urban refuge into a crucial node for continental conservation data. Community outreach programs spring from the park to neighboring settlements, teaching coexistence and creating corridors that link to wider ecosystems like Masai Mara and Amboseli. Each story of rescued elephant calves or translocated rhinos here becomes a bridge to the larger conservation narrative across Kenya's great parks. Stand here, and you're witnessing a rare experiment. Wild Africa preserved against an urban backdrop, a living reminder that nature can persist if corridors are defended and communities empowered. From Nairobi National Park, the next chapter unfolds naturally toward Amboseli's giants and the Mara's sweeping plains, and the journey is only beginning. Masai Mara National Reserve harbors one of the planet's densest concentrations of big cats, where lions, cheetahs, and leopards coexist within strikingly compact territories year-round. Do you know the Mara hosts the great wildebeest migration's most dramatic river crossings, where thousands risk crocodile-filled waters in thunderous, unpredictable surges each season? Beneath the sweeping grasslands, secret springs feed hidden wetlands that sustain bird species found nowhere else, making the Mara an ecological mosaic of extraordinary endemism. Grass-eating wildebeest and stealthy predators shape vegetation patterns, creating shifting corridors that link the Mara with neighboring conservancies and riverine forests to the Serengeti ecosystem. Local Maasai communities read the land like weather maps, following subtle cues that predict migration pulses and predator movements across vast horizons, daily rhythms intimately. Traditional fire and grazing regimes practiced by Maasai herders influence predator-prey balance, creating the patchwork of grass heights that support diverse herbivores seasonally and ecologically. Visitors often expect endless golden plains, yet the Mara conceals mist-laced river valleys and acacia-draped kopjes, teeming with secretive species from rock hyraxes to servals. A lesser-known phenomenon is the Mara's green season bloom, when ephemeral wildflowers carpet the plains and lure migratory birds with unexpected profusion across remote valleys. Riverine corridors serve as lifelines, funneling water, nutrients, and animals, and connecting the Mara's core to satellite conservancies that extend protection beyond park borders, seasonally. Game scouts and researchers now map these links with drones and long-term data, revealing migration detours and corridors that were invisible to earlier explorers still. At dusk, the Mara reorganizes itself into predator theaters, where silent ambushes and lightning chases rewrite the day's fortunes within minutes for vulnerable young calves. And beneath that drama lies an urgent story of human stewardship and climate strain that will determine whether the Mara's interplay of species survives intact. Ol Doinyo Lengai is the only active carbonatite volcano on Earth, erupting sodium-rich lava that cools from glossy black to chalky white in hours. Do you know Ol Doinyo Lengai is called the Mountain of God by the Maasai, and still shapes rituals, roots, and stories across the Rift Valley? Its eruptions smell metallic and buzz in the humid air because the lava carries rare minerals that react unlike any other volcanic flow. Across the slopes, you can see salt-encrusted rocks and vents that feed Lake Natron's alkaline waters, sending nutrients that help sustain flamingo colonies. Unlike basaltic eruptions, this natrocarbonatite lava flows at surprisingly low temperatures, often under 500 degrees Celsius, moving fast and cooling into fragile, powdery crusts. Those unusual deposits weather into mineral dust that fertilizes soda lakes and alters the chemistry of plains, linking the mountain to life across the valley. Maasai elders still leave offerings at ceremonial cairns, treating each vent as a living presence that announces seasons and rainfall in local lore. Geologists climb for leaf chemistry lessons, photographers for the eerie contrasts, and pilgrims for a sense that science and myth share this singular place. At night, the cooled lava reflects moonlight into silvers and salts, while daytime heat reveals shimmering mineral tapestries that change by the hour. Ol Doinyo Lengai's ash and salts have shaped landscapes for millennia, their reach extending to lakes, grazing lands, and the very roots of pastoral life. Approaching the rim, visitors sense the paradox. Fragile, chalky crusts overlay volatile vents, and every step carries stories of survival, ceremony, and geological rarity. Stay with us as we trace this mountain's far-reaching influence, from the chemistry of its lava to the elders who read its moods, and discover why its pulse matters to all of Kenya. Lake Turkana is the world's largest permanent desert lake and the largest alkaline lake on Earth. Do you know Lake Turkana, Rudolph Lake, is nicknamed the Jade Sea because its waters glow an otherworldly green? Its shoreline holds fossil beds, especially at Kubi Fora, where early hominid remains reshaped our understanding of human origins. The Turkana Basin has produced some of the oldest, most complete human ancestor skeletons ever discovered, including Turkana Boy. Volcanoes rise from the lake itself, with central islands sporting hot springs and a stark rim of black lava. Those volcanic islands create habitats for Nile crocodiles, giant tilapia, and flocks of pink flamingos that punctuate the green water. Local Turkana communities still fish from reed boats, using techniques unchanged for generations along the shifting shoreline. Yet the lake's fragile balance is under threat, as climate variability and upstream changes alter its level and salinity. Beneath its surface lie unique ecosystems adapted to high alkalinity, housing fish species found almost nowhere else. Migratory birds use the lake as a crucial stopover, turning it into a verdant corridor in an otherwise arid landscape. On certain evenings, the lake shimmers like molten glass, and you can almost imagine the first humans who watched the same spectacle. Archaeologists still unearth tools and bones along the strand that tell stories stretching back millions of years. The remoteness of Lake Turkana makes it one of the best places on Earth to see raw geological time written in cliffs and fossils. Seasons flip the scene. Grassy shallows one year, exposed white alkaline flats the next, each change revealing fresh secrets. Central Island National Park protects both nesting birds and submerged archaeological sites, a rare overlap of natural and human history. As the Rift Valley sweeps south from Turkana, it stitches this ancient basin to other wonderlands, from the flamingo lakes of Bogoria to the rugged Samburu. Follow the rift and you'll find how one landscape flows into the next, each place narrating an unbroken story of water, fire, and life. In our next segment, we'll move from Lake Turkana's jade horizons down the rift to those flamingo-streaked soda lakes and uncover the links between them. We'll trace the ancient shoreline and the fossils that link climate shifts here to the evolution of early humans. Stay with us as Lake Turkana's stark beauty and deep time stories lead the way toward the rift's next marvels. From the red dust of the plains, we descend into Tsavo West National Park, where volcanic ridges meet marshy springs. Do you know that Mzima Springs here produces crystal clear water that bubbles from underground aquifers and feeds countless life forms? Beneath the surface, pools teem with hippos and fish so transparent they seem to swim in glass. Above ground, the Shitani lava flows create surreal black ribbons across the landscape, a scar left by ancient eruptions. Tsavo West shelters the Ngulia Rhino Sanctuary, a hard-won success story where endangered black rhinos were reintroduced and protected. You can still find herds of the iconic red-stained elephants here, their skin painted by the iron-rich soil they wallow in. Water defines this park: seasonal rivers, hidden springs, and the broad Galana River, carving life into arid stretches. Bird life explodes along the waterways. Fish eagles, hammercup, and secretive kingfishers stake out territories around reed-lined channels. The landscape shifts in a heartbeat, from open savanna to thick volcanic thickets, creating corridors where predators and prey meet. Lions here have learned to exploit rocky ridges and seasonal waterholes, while leopards ghost among thorny acacias and boulder fields. Guided tracks lead to viewpoints that reveal the park's geological tapestry. Ancient lava, green springs, and sunburnt plains stretching to the horizon. Local Maasai and Kamba stories still map the land, naming springs and stones, and reminding visitors that human history is braided through this wilderness. High on the southern slopes of Mount Kenya, Ol Pejeta Conservancy shelters the largest contiguous black rhino population in East Africa. Do you know that Ol Pejeta once became the global symbol for saving the northern white rhino, hosting the last animals of that subspecies under intensive protection? Beyond rhinos, Ol Pejeta quietly hosts Kenya's only chimpanzee sanctuary, Sweetwaters, where rescued apes learn to live again. The Conservancy pairs this rare primate refuge with one of the most successful anti-poaching programs on the continent. Rangers under the Ol Pejeta banner patrol with dogs, drones, and biometric tracking that reads like science fiction, but works like life-saving medicine. Those methods have turned a landscape once vulnerable to poaching into a global model for species recovery and landscape security. Visitors who arrive expecting only Big Five safaris are stunned to find conservation labs, veterinary hospitals, and breeding programs integrated into the wilderness. Ol Pejeta's veterinary unit has performed cutting-edge care, from treating wounded rhinos to running fertility programs that biologists hope will rewrite extinction narratives. Community partnerships here are not charity. They're strategic lifelines, with local schools, livelihoods, and livestock insurance linked directly to conservation success. When villagers prosper, wildlife corridors endure, creating a rare example of humans and megafauna stabilizing together on shared land. The Conservancy also operates a black rhino monitoring program, so precise scientists can track individual animals and their family histories. This level of data lets researchers anticipate threats, manage genetics, and plan translocations with unprecedented confidence. Leaving the thunder of the Mara's migration, the landscape softens into a freshwater mirror, known as Lake Naivasha, one of the Rift Valley's rare high-altitude lakes that supports papyrus fringes and floating islands. Do you know Lake Naivasha is one of the few freshwater lakes in the world that hosts both hippos and a flourishing flower farming industry right at its shores? Morning mist lifts off the water to reveal yellow-billed storks stepping through shallows and pelicans gliding in slow prehistoric arcs. The lake's reed beds are concert halls for warblers and secretive marsh birds, while the islands themselves drift like tiny vegetated boats. Boatmen who have navigated these waters for generations will steer you past crescents of hippo foam and under towering acacia silhouettes. Dozens of rose and carnation farms line nearby shores, their glass houses humming with workers and the scent of economy woven into the lake's fragile ecology. Conservationists balance livelihoods and life here, tracking water levels that rise and fall with distant rains and human demand. Walk the Crescent Island Sanctuary, and you'll trade the boat's lull for grazing giraffes and impala, a landlocked savanna wedged within Naivasha's watery embrace. At dusk, fishermen cast traditional nets that glint like old coins while the sun spills molten gold across papyrus stalks. Stories float here too, of geothermal whispers from the nearby springs, of colonial-era farms, and of communities who read the lake's moods like a weathered map. Researchers warn that rising demand for water and changing climate patterns threaten Naivasha's delicate dance between land and lake. Yet local stewards, from fishermen to florists, are innovating, shifting irrigation, protecting wetlands, and opening their stories to visitors who come to learn and linger. A sunrise trip becomes a living atlas. You leave with questions on shared water futures. Samburu National Reserve cradles one of the planet's most extraordinary riparian oases, where the narrow green ribbon of the Ewaso Ngiro supports species found almost nowhere else on Earth. Do you know Samburu National Reserve is famous for the so-called Samburu Special 5, the reticulated giraffe, Gravy's zebra, Somali ostrich, Gerenuk, and Besa oryx, and that their survival hinges on an ancient pulse of river and on a few outsiders' understandings. In this arid north, the river carves a living corridor, a string of shaded pools and thorn forests where predators and prey meet in stark, intimate dramas. Gerenuk, with its impossibly long neck, can rise on hind legs to pluck leaves other antelopes cannot reach, while the reticulated giraffe's patterned coat seems made for this patchwork of light and shadow. By the riverbanks, nomadic Samburu herders read the land in ways that scientists are only beginning to validate, following dry season tracks and waterholes, known by name for generations. Crocodiles lie in slow calculation beneath the shade, while small islands of papyrus and acacia host migrant birds that turn the reserve into a seasonal cathedral of feathers and calls. Samburu's light is sharp and revealing, turning dust into gold at dusk and exposing the raw choreography of survival: ambush, flight, reunion, and quiet feeding. Here, conservation is intimate and local. Community scouts and rangers patrol the same tracks elders once walked, protecting corridors that link Samburu to Buffalo Springs and Shaba. Amboseli is one of the rare places on Earth where herds of elephants graze on marshy floodplains, while Mount Kilimanjaro's snow-capped summit frames them like a living postcard. Do you know Amboseli has hosted the longest-running elephant study in the world, revealing secrets of memory, leadership, and survival passed down through generations? From the bone-dry scrub beyond the park boundaries, seasonal floods transform the basin into a mosaic of emerald marshes and reflective pans. These transient wetlands lure not only elephants, but a startling cast of birds and predators that time their lives to the park's subtle rhythms. The park's silica-rich soils and underground aquifers create hot mineral springs that feed alkaline lakes and paint the landscape with unusual hues. Researchers and Maasai elders alike have mapped the invisible veins of water that keep grass green where most of the region is parched. Amboseli's elephants are famous for more than size. Mothers teach calves routes to hidden water, and which plants soothe aching teeth and bellies. This cultural knowledge has helped them weather droughts, outsmart poachers, and maintain family bonds longer than many scientists expected. As the sun rises, the park's silhouettes become a living study in light, where every tusk and termite mound tells a story of adaptation. Migratory flocks sweep in by the thousands, turning shallow pans into temporary cathedrals of pink and white flamingos and other wetland migrants. Amboseli also offers a rare view into human-wildlife cohabitation, where Maasai pastoralists and wildlife managers negotiate grazing corridors and conservation. Their centuries-old knowledge of the land helps guide modern conservation efforts that aim to keep Amboseli connected to neighboring habitats. From its lowland marshes, you can trace routes that link Amboseli to Tsavo and the dry corridors toward the Rift Valley, a living highway for life. Those connections remind us that protecting Amboseli is not just about one park, but about the survival of ecosystems across borders and climates. Kisite-Mpunguti Marine National Park harbors one of the densest fringing coral gardens in the Indian Ocean. Do you know Kisite-Mpunguti shelters resident pods of bottlenose and humpback dolphins that weave through coral towers like silver currents? Beneath the surface, brain corals and staghorn forests form hidden cathedrals where parrotfish, angelfish, and rare reef endemics feed and hide. On moonless nights, the reef seems to breathe, and local fishers whisper of a seasonal spectacle that lights the seabed and feeds entire islands. Mangrove fringes and seagrass meadows around the park act as nurseries for green turtles and juvenile reef fish, anchoring an ecosystem few places still possess. Conservationists have found that these shallow nurseries sustain migratory visitors like whale sharks and seasonal humpback whales, turning the park into a crossroads of giants. The human story here is woven with the sea. Wasini Island communities have practiced reef stewardship for generations, timing their fishing to the reef's rhythms. That local knowledge, stitched together with modern protection, created corridors connecting Kisite's reefs to nearby reserves and community-managed fisheries. Scientific dives have revealed cryptic species, tiny nudibranchs, and becolored gobies, found only in these coral mosaics, hinting at evolutionary experiments under the waves. Yet despite this richness, the reef faces invisible threats: warming pulses, coral disease, and the tug-of-war between tourism and tradition. Efforts to restore damaged patches use coral gardening techniques, where fragments are grown on frames until they can rejoin the reef's living architecture. Local guides lead visitors not just to snorkel, but to witness restoration in action, turning tourism into a tool for repair rather than extraction. From Kisite's patch reefs, currents carry larvae toward the rocky Shimoni channels, linking reproduction here to reefs farther along the Kenyan coast. Follow that underwater highway, and you'll find tidal mangrove forests and the stone ruins of camps that once traded in spices and stories. There is a hidden question that keeps scientists diving back. How long can these reef corridors persist if climate patterns shift abruptly? Understanding Kisite-Mpunguti's resilience may hold clues not just for Kenya, but for coral survival across the Indian Ocean. Close your eyes and imagine a child on Wasini learning which patch of reef to leave untouched so her grandchildren can still watch dolphins at play. This is where community memory and marine science converge to protect one of the ocean's rare living libraries. The secrets of Kisite are not secret forever. They invite us to choose whether these coral cathedrals endure or fade into stories. And as we drift from these clear shallows toward the next coastal wonder, the reef's lessons travel with us, fragile, luminous, and urgent. From Mount Kenya's equatorial glaciers to the sweeping plains of the Masai Mara, Kenya holds extremes few countries can match. The Mara's endless grasslands stage the planet's most dramatic migration, where over 1 million hoofs thunder and predators time their lives to the pulse of moving herds. Flowing from those plains into the rift, Lake Nakuru and Lake Bogoria become flamingo factories, painting alkaline shores in impossible shades of pink. Beyond the lakes, the Rift Valley's escarpments lead us to Hell's Gate, where narrow gorges and geothermal steam hint at the raw geology that forged this land. To the south, Amboseli's dusty plains gather the continent's largest elephant herds beneath the silent silhouette of Kilimanjaro, a reminder that borders don't stop the rhythms of nature. Further east, Tsavo's red-soiled wilderness hosts legendary red elephants and sweeping landscapes where lions still claim open country as their own. Climbing north, Samburu and Laikipia reveal a wilder, drier Kenya, one where reticulated giraffes, gravy zebras, and desert-adapted elephants tell stories of survival against heat and isolation. Between reef and forest, Kenya's coral gardens shelter turtles and whale sharks, connecting inland migrations to oceanic journeys in a single living tapestry. Across these places people, Maasai herders, Kikuyu farmers, Swahili merchants, and pastoralists of the north, shape and are shaped by the land, carrying stories older than the maps that name them. Their languages, rituals, and conservation efforts remind us that Kenya is not just a collection of sites, but a continuous, breathing system of life, memory, and adaptation. So when you leave, you take more than images. You carry a puzzle of glacial peaks, pink lakes, elephant trails, and coral reefs that refuse to sit neatly in one category. Kenya asks us to look again, to question how landscapes connect across deserts, mountains, and seas, and to remember that the world's most extraordinary places often survive because people keep paying attention.